Check 1, 2. Hey everyone, Joe Graves here with City View Church, and really excited for the podcast from our last worship service. I wanted to give you a little bit of context similar to a couple weeks ago. Instead of just a single sermon, we actually have a couple of people sharing. My friend Jesse's going to share a story of hope, and Delaney and Travis are sharing a mental health moment. And then Maggie is going to share a little sermonette, a mixture of a story of hope and some thoughts from her recent paper on hope at her seminary class. So all really great examples of how to find hope in this world and how hope is by necessity mingled with grief. And so I really encourage you to check it out. Listen, I know you'll be encouraged. So here they are.
Thanks. Okay. Good morning. My name is Jesse. My family here is Kelly, my wife. My daughter's Evelyn and Alayli. This is a little bit more of a reflection on hope than a story. And I'm going to do my best to read my own handwriting here. So we'll see how we do. So hope is a word that first sounds positive, warm and fuzzy. We might say, I'm filled with hope. It's a season of hope. And of course, the Christmas holiday season is supposed to be the most wonderful time, as the songs and the commercials tell us. But hope is one of those things that can only really exist when we need it. And when we need hope, that usually means that things are a bit tough. It's maybe not the most wonderful time. When I feel lost, confused, despondent, hurt, that's when I need hope. Those are the conditions, really, when hope can exist. I can't really be hopeful when I'm satisfied. There's no need for hope when everything is well, and I've achieved my goals, and I'm winning. It's when I feel like a failure, an outcast, alone, a loser, weak, swirling in my own anxieties and uncertainties. That's paradoxically, ironically, that's when I need hope. And that's when hope exists. So I appreciate that we're a community of authentic people, so I will be authentic and tell you that this was a week when that's how I felt. The pressures of the holiday season, my own skewed internal narratives were really overwhelming me. I was in need of some hope. And so I've been reflecting on hope here at City View and thinking about what to share with you all. I've noticed how in this season of hope, it includes both sides. There's the darkness and the light. There are the challenges and the celebrations. There's the hurt and the hope. There's the world we dream about and the one we live in now. So Advent means waiting, anticipating. What we long for is not here yet, and we feel the emptiness. We feel the need, the hope for the coming Savior. In nature, when we look outside, the days are shorter, the nights are longer. It's a season of darkness. The leaves have fallen, the woods are cold and quiet. Paul, one of our New Testament writers, he, I think, was a bit dramatic at times, and in 2 Corinthians, he's got a few really powerful phrases talking about this needing hope. He says things like, we are hard-pressed on every side. We carry around in our body the death of Jesus. Death is at work in us. Outwardly, we are wasting away. Being a follower of Jesus means that we are closely familiar with loss, with suffering, with emptiness and death. I don't like that. I don't enjoy these feelings, particularly when it's me. You know, I can handle it when it's out there and someone else is having a hard time. I'll pray for you. I don't want to feel that way. I want the joy, the smiles, the wins. I want the #blessed filtered on my Instagram photos. But that's not real, and that's not where hope is. So, where is hope? I've been trying to pay attention to symbols of hope, reminders that there is something more coming, that I'm anticipating and I'm waiting for a reason. In that same section in 2 Corinthians, Paul calls it paying attention to what is not yet seen. the potential, the what might be, the not yet. So a symbol of hope might be light in the darkness. Maybe it's that bright north star in the dark winter sky, or your neighbor's obscenely huge, 40-foot tall, lit up Grinch. Both lights in the darkness. It might be the wick on the Advent calendar, on the Advent candle. It's not yet lit, but it's reminding us of the potential, the time when it will be lit and the candle will glow. Maybe it's the cry of a baby, not yet words, but telling us of a powerful life still to be lived. It's the bread and the wine, the body and blood of Christ that we take, we break and eat, bringing into ourselves the life of God so it can sustain us through the day. It's dawn on a new day, a phone call from a close friend, an empty journal page waiting for fresh words to be written, a table set for guests to arrive and share a meal, a smile between strangers, a seed resting in the dirt for months waiting to burst through the ground. Hope is all around us. It's a community of people who are authentic, coming together to pursue justice and peace and goodness, even when it's a little tough. Sometimes hope is all around us, so much so that it hurts. Because when there's hope, there's also longing and emptiness. But there is hope. Holding on to what will be, holding on to each other, holding on to our faith. So may the symbols of hope bring you comfort and peace, even in this season of darkness and longing. Thanks.
I'm Travis. This is Delaney. For most of my life, even on the best days, I would wake up and just couldn't help but feel sad. I set standards for myself that were way too high. Unfortunately, I met them a lot of times, so that made it even worse. I was everything for everyone and nothing for myself. And then just someday, actually, I know the day, it was December 2nd last year, decided I'd had enough and took matters into my own hands. And fast forward, after a mental hospital visit, an autism diagnosis, coming out of the closet, still married. So figure that one out. A lot of therapy. I can say I'm happy. Yeah.
What? Come on.
And it's all thanks to the Mental Health Fund. That's what I wanted to share. I wanted Travis to share, and he was willing to, because if it wasn't for the Mental Health Fund for the both of us, we would not have been able to get Travis the help he needed. And then I also needed mental health services for myself to help deal with what Travis was going through and then my own mental health journey. So if it wasn't for the help of all of you in this community, we probably would not be here as happy and healthy as we are today. So thank you all.
So the Mental Health Fund provides microgrants to anyone in need of mental health services, whether that's to see a therapist or to help cover costs for inpatient or even occasionally spiritual direction, things like that. As we continue to hear from our community, I'm excited to invite Maggie Chick to come forward. Maggie is a seminary student and has been a part of our community the last couple of months and made the mistake of telling me that she had just written a paper on hope and resilience. And so I said, of course, you should share that next week. And so thank God for you and for being willing to share.
Okay, hi, good morning. I am Maggie. My husband, two of my girls and my in-laws are here, and it's actually kind of a surprise to them. I dropped this on my husband at 12 a.m. last night that I was going to be doing this. So anyway, all that to say, I wanted to share a little bit about my story, but also, again, about my paper. I'm not going to share all 17 pages of it with you. I only brought 2. So that's all we have time for. A little more than 3 years ago, I made, with Connor, a very informed and conscientious decision to leave the church that I was at. At the time, I was 2 months postpartum with my second child, and our entire life was embedded in this church. We were on the worship team. I was the youth pastor. We are military, and so our closest family was at least 1,000 miles away, which I can make that trip in one day, but that's not really something that most people really want to do. And so it was incredibly difficult to be in that position. I was completely lost. It's probably the lowest I've been as an adult. And I didn't really register that because I saw my 2 daughters and I thought, I just need to hold it together. I need to pull myself together and just be the person that I'm supposed to be for my children. But within 7 days, I went from, the bliss of having a newborn and the joy of having a healthy child, or really 2 healthy children, to losing my entire support network. All the people that had stepped in to do my laundry, to bring me food, to do all these different things when I had my first child disappeared completely. And like I said, our families were very far. My husband was in residency. He's cranking out 90 hours of work a week. And I was at home with 2 little children going, now what? So I'm going to press pause on that. I'll come back to it in a minute. But as Joe mentioned, I had this weird light bulb moment last week, and I was like, oh yeah, I just wrote a paper on this. So convenient and so weird. And the thing is with hope, is it's so intertwined with grief. And grief comes in all forms and all fashions, and it doesn't discriminate, right? It doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter what you're dealing with, at some point it's going to come for you. And it's not just death or trauma. It's my favorite definition of it that I've seen so far is it's this reckoning that we have as humans to deal with the loss of potential. The loss of something that we thought was going to happen, the loss of future joy or a future story. And so it's trying to come to terms with that. And surface level, a lot of times it feels like these losses are just supposed to be easily categorized, but they're not. A lot like each of us, they're unique, they're individual. And I think in our culture, we try to take grief when we experience it, and we try to fold it up nicely and put it in this box, and then pack it away, put a bow on it, and walk away. And that's not really what we're supposed to do. It's easier, for sure, at least for me it is. I'm the great compartmentalizer. But we're not really supposed to do that. And so what I wanted to do with this paper of mine is I wanted to look at what happens with teenagers when they're going through grief. As I mentioned, or as Joe mentioned probably, I'm in seminary, and I'm in seminary specifically for youth ministry, so I almost never talk to adults. That's not true. I talk to adults in my normal life, but not in this type of setting, right? So anyway, so we're looking, I wanted to look at how youth ministry can be a place to foster hope and to build resilience. Because research tells us that hope and resilience are the 2 most effective ways to combat grief. But how do we get there? How do we get to hope? How do we get to resilience? Resilience is this idea, this concept that when we're dealing with grief of any kind, we have this capacity to seek some kind of resource, whether it's a psychological resource, a social resource, a cultural one, a physical one. We have this ability, it's our capacity to seek resource. Hope, on the other hand, is, again, this future-oriented concept where We're looking towards something and hoping for something. And together, they kind of create these building blocks to coping and to figuring out what to do next. So I wanted to see whether or not youth ministry, again, could actually produce those things just based on its intrinsic value and what youth ministry sets up. And the answer is it does. Again, I'm going to save you 17 pages. The answer is that yes. Youth ministry specifically can build hope and build resilience in students. And I think that's very important to remember because really youth ministry is a microcosm of the church as a whole. The church has an incredible amount of potential to battle grief through building resilience and fostering hope as it helps people learn about God and community. And that's really what youth ministry does, right? If you ever go to a youth ministry meeting, you're gonna be guaranteed you're gonna play a game. It's probably gonna be cheesy. It's probably gonna be awkward for everybody, but everyone's gonna laugh, right? Probably gonna share a meal together. You might sing, you might do worship. But that's kind of what we do here, minus the games. We're not playing tag, thankfully, right? Although, yeah. Unfortunately, church also has the ability to alienate, has the ability to discourage us, to frustrate the things that we're working towards. And unfortunately, a lot of times churches don't make grief intervention a priority. One of the things that I think the church can struggle with, the church as a whole can struggle with, is pouring into people when they don't get to see the result of their effort. And so, as I think about and reflect upon kind of the trajectory that my life has taken in the last 3 years, since we walked away from everything that we knew, and we're on the brink, quite frankly, of another move, because like I said, we're military. So it's coming up in the next couple months. But when I made the decision to leave that church, I felt utterly hopeless. But when I did leave, the students and their families, the ones that my husband and I had poured into, not just because it was my job, but because we loved it, they didn't let us go. And they wanted to continue to see us and to pray for us, to be a part of our lives. Their parents did. They showed up week after week to spend time and to continue to be our community when we had none. And when you are a 30-ish-year-old person and you're an adult and you think you have your life together and then you have a bunch of teenagers who are supporting you and you don't really register how significant that is until later on, because you kind of feel like you're the one helping them. But in reality, the teacher became the student. And I think that that's so significant. And that's one of the reasons I love youth ministry so much, is because so frequently the teacher becomes the student. Because students have so much to teach us. Youth have so much to teach us, and we have so much to learn from them. So, again, 4 years, they started pouring into me. When we baptized our middle child, aside from our families, the people that were primarily there were the students and their families. They check on our kids, they check on us. When I tried to decide whether or not it would be completely insane to go to seminary with 2 children, and now I've had a third since starting seminary, they supported me. And if they hadn't supported me, if they hadn't been that for me when I needed it, and been a faith community for me when I needed it, I probably wouldn't have gone to seminary. I at least would have put it off. I certainly would not have made some of the most amazing friends that I've made since moving to Columbus. I wouldn't have been led to this church that has welcomed my family and I with open arms and genuinely sought to foster friendship with us, remembered our names in a crowd of faces. And so there's this verse in Hebrews that I love, and I recognize that the situation the ancient Hebrews was dealing with is substantially different than ours, but I do think that it's a beautiful and relevant verse. And it reads, "Let us consider how to provoke one another to love and good deeds, not neglecting to meet together, as is the habit of some, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day approaching." And that's Hebrews 10:24 through 25. So really, what I would like to say in closing is thank you to City View. Thank you for being the kind of community that welcomes others, no matter how short a time they'll be here. But thank you for being the kind of place and the kind of people that meet together and encourages us to do things for others and love each other, and for being the kind of place that is setting an example in how to build hope and be hopeful and show hope to others in the midst of the crazy world that we live in. Thank you for loving us, for loving each other, and for being here and present.
Thanks so much. Fantastic.